Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzwong TV here, aka Lauren33. I'm back here today with your My Hero Academia Chapter 319 official review. It's been a couple weeks since we got an update about the My Hero Academia manga, because the manga was on break last week, and they left us with a major cliffhanger. So I've been on my hands and knees these last 2 weeks praying that this chapter delivered, and it absolutely did, because we finally got to see Deku reunite with Class 1A for the first time since leaving UA. But it's not as easy as we thought it would be, and I love the direction that they're going with this story. I've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks about how I don't like how Deku left UA. I don't like his mentality shift and how he's putting himself in trouble with his reckless actions. And we get to see that develop more and more, especially in this chapter. And it's going to be up to the members of Class 1A, mainly Bakugo, Shoto, Ochako, and Ida. It's gonna be up to them to get Deku to calm down and realize that he's making a huge mistake that is doing him more harm than good at the end of the day. So we're gonna get into the chapter. So if you guys remember, at the end of chapter 318, we saw as the citizens were getting on top of Deku, who was really tired and who was thinking about making some kind of plan of how he could escape and defeat the Dictator without hurting all the civilians in the process. We saw Bakugo come out of nowhere and take Dictator out and appear right in front of Deku. And then he was on a cell phone telling the rest of the members of Class 1A that they had found, or that he had found Deku. So the chapter starts off with a flashback. So the flashback is a couple of days after Deku left UA. We remember Deku gave letters to every single member of Class 1A. Bakugo is ripping the letter up, which is no surprise. I've been, talking about for weeks how I wanted to see what Bakugo's reaction would have been to Deku's letter, especially since he knew Deku's secret, and he had made more knowledge about Deku's situation than anybody else in Class 1A, because of his relationship with both All Might and Deku. And we see Shoto and Tokoyami, they're next to him. They say it's only a guess, but they think Deku's with Endeavor and the other pro heroes. So you can see how smart the members of Class 1A already are. They were able to figure out that Deku didn't just leave UA and he's by himself out there, right? He's out there with All Might and some of the other pro heroes, and they're trying to take down the League of Villains. So Ida asks, why don't they just call the pros to confirm the guests, since the pro heroes are their mentors? But the three of them say that Endeavor, Hawks, and Genus are not picking up their phones. Shoto says he understands that they must be extra busy right now, but it's fishy nonetheless. They're definitely hiding something, right? Juro agrees and adds that All Might hasn't come back to UA either. So then Ochako says that their classes have been suspended and they're still waiting to advance to the next school year. And the Hero Course is now basically just staying at standby in the dorms and patrolling the area around UA. So you guys get to see the effect that the downfall of Hero Society is having on, UA High, right? Remember, at the beginning of the war arc, it was the beginning of Class 1A's second year. But because of the events of that battle and all the craziness that has happened in Hero Society, right? It's gone to the point where Class 1A hasn't even been able to start the school year. So technically, it's almost like an extended summer vacation. All they're doing is just staying at the dorms and, patrolling UA to make sure, they're not getting attacked by any villains or anything. So that's crazy. You would think that that maybe Class 1A would be in class or something like that, but they're not. They're just at the dorms. So they're having all this time to think about Deku and what's going on with him and the other pro heroes. So Bakugo says that if Deku is so afraid of going back to UA and tracking the villains there's no way he went back just to leave those letters. He asked someone else to do it, probably All Might. So Bakugo explain, because like I said, Bakugo understands Deku's mindset better than anybody else. He knows that Deku wouldn't come back to UA and put everybody at risk just to deliver those letters if he truly was leaving UA. So it was most likely that Deku had All Might place the letters there for the members of Class 1A to see. So Bakugo with that MVP IQ. So Bakugo also says that he knows Deku and All Might better than Endeavor and the others do, and that he knows the two of them will eventually get themselves in trouble. Because Bakugo knows how much Deku wants to be like All Might, and how All Might, even though he was the symbol of peace and Bakugo's idol growing up, All Might was pretty reckless. And you can see that recklessness a lot in Deku, like we talk about all the time. So, Class 1A decides to contact Endeavor, but they don't really know how. So, Ochako remembered that he's a UA alumni. So, a few days later, we see Nezu, the principal, right? He calls Endeavor to the principal's room where all the students are waiting for him. So, Shoto tells his father to explain why he has been ignoring his calls and texts. And, it's interesting because we remember, it's like vice versa. Remember all the times throughout the series when Endeavor would call Shoto and Shoto wouldn't pick up. Because, Shoto has a very complicated relation with his father because of their past. He asks if they forgot their talk in the hospital about stopping Toya, to which Endeavor responds he did not, and that those words have been guiding him since then. Shoto blames him for letting Deku and All Might, or for leaving Deku and All Might by themselves, and Bakugo intervenes. He says that Endeavor thinks it's the right thing to do because he really doesn't understand Deku. According to Bakugo, Deku is screwed up in the head and never thinks about his own good. And since All Might used to be that way too during his time as the symbol of peace, he's unable to stop Deku. We just saw this 2 chapters ago, right? Remember, when Deku tells All Might, stop following me, All Might doesn't know what to say. He can't stop. We see in All Might's head, he's thinking about all these things he wants to say to Deku, right? But he can't bring himself to say the words. And he just lets Deku walk away while he falls on the ground. And it's a very, very sad scene. So we've already seen what Bakugo is saying here come to pass in recent manga chapters. So there's a short flashback of the pros receiving the news that Deku said he doesn't need All Might's help anymore. They say they wish that they were fast enough to follow him around. He's about to say something while taking his phone out of his pocket, but Seal interrupts, asking if it has a GPS feature. So, it's pretty cool that we get that flashback of some of the other pro heroes getting the news that Deku doesn't need All Might's help anymore. And clearly, I think this is a decision that Deku will come to regret later on. And I hope this doesn't come to pass, but I feel like this could eventually lead to All Might's death. I feel like it has to happen at some point. I feel like it's so unlikely that that All Might survives through all of this, especially without a quirk. But either way, back to the GPS, right? Endeavor didn't answer verbally, but he threw his phone to them while Shiro caught the phone together with Mineta. Shiro asked whether it's okay for him to borrow the phone or not, since he was just someone who happened to be in the same class as Deku. Kodo said that he was also just someone who spent a year in the same class, and then Shoto continued by saying he was shocked because Deku didn't share his troubles regarding One For All with them. And then Ida continued by saying that Class 1A will follow him because no matter how big of a deal One For All is, Midoriya is their friend, and they can't smile when knowing that their friend is walking a thorny road. So you're getting more perspective from the side of Class 1A, right? Because remember, some of the members of Class 1A, even though Class 1A is like this big family and we've seen them grow and develop a lot through the first 300 chapters, because you guys gotta remember, all these 300 chapters is just their first year of high school, right? Like, most manga series are done, and in other manga series, Class 1A would already be full-grown adults by the time we would hit chapter 300. But the first 300 chapters are just their first year of high school and all the craziness that happened. So we've gotten to see this family develop and grow closer. They're more than just a class. They're a family. They live together. They do everything together. They've been on all these journeys and battles and experiences with one another. So, I really do love this perspective. And yes, some of the members of Class 1A aren't as close with other members, right? Serio and Koda, they may not be Deku's best friends at the end of the day. But they care about him, right? We know that Deku's closest relationships in Class 1A are probably Shoto and Bakugo and Ochako and Ida. We know those are the people that Deku's closest to, but still, at the end of the day, everybody in Class 1A is worried about Deku because they've been on this journey with him, and they don't want to see him do something that's going to get himself hurt. Nezu told him that it's okay to bring him back to UA. He explained he was agreeing to Deku's own will to not return. However, the moment they agreed to accept him into UA, he became the student that they must protect. So I love the dialogue here from Nezu. Endeavor asked about the refugees, and Nezu explained that UA is currently let them stay, but is still not the official evacuation area, and he will do something about it. He said it will be okay because All Might, as the previous predecessor, also went to UA. So not only is UA on lockdown, but they do have some refugees taking shelter at the place. I believe almost all of the parents of the members of Class 1A are there as well. So like I said, they're doing their best in these crazy times to keep everybody safe. So the next panel, then we go back to present time. Enough with the flashbacks. We get to see the rest of Class 1A arrive in Kamino. Yamamomo announced that the jailbreaker was successfully caught and said, "Good job, Bakugo." But Bakugo corrected to "Great explosion, murder god, dynamite." So Bakugo's still rolling with that horrific hero name. And like I said, it's mainly for some comedic relief because we know how dark the story is at this point. But eventually, I don't know why I keep saying Deku. Eventually, Bakugo's gonna have to change that. All right. Yamamura apologized. So then we see the citizens were free from the dictator's control because Bakugo's attack. Deku asks him why they are here. So first off, Deku doesn't even have the motion on his face. Like, he sounds like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you guys," because time has passed. A good amount of time has passed since Deku left UA. At least a couple weeks, maybe a month. I don't know the specific date, but some time has passed. And Deku doesn't have like an emotional look on his face, like, "Oh, it's so good to see you guys." He's like, "Why are you here?" Right? Uraka says because they were worried. Deku said that he's fine, so they shouldn't worry, and that they should leave, right? Bakugo then claps his hands as he smiles sarcastically, saying, "That's great, as expected from the one-for-all predecessor Sama." So I love this one from Bakugo, because Bakugo understands Deku better than anybody. Like I said, Bakugo knows that Deku wants to be like All Might, because that's something All Might would probably say in his prime. So Deku's now trying to get under Deku's skin, like, "Look at you, you're doing such a great job," right? But then Bakugo quickly gave a serious face, and then he asked, "So, can you smile now?" Deku stayed silent and said, "In order to smile and to make everyone feel at ease, I need to go." And then we see Deku put his mask back on, and we all know Deku doesn't look anything like a hero. We've talked about the blood and the scars and how his outfit is completely torn up, and we all know how fatigued Deku is. So then we see Deku activating his quirk, and he told everyone to move away, but Bakugo answered, "Then make us move. All Might wannabe." So Bakugo continues to, egg Deku on. Ida and Uraka are also in the panel, ready for a fight, and that's how the chapter ends. So it looks like they're teasing Deku versus Class 1A next chapter. And I don't know if we're going to get the battle, but clearly Class 1A, they're going to have to convince Deku that he needs to stop. We already know Deku's already went way beyond his limits. He is heavily fatigued. As strong as Deku is, we don't know how much his fatigue is going to have to play. Plus, he would be going up against all of Class 1A. I don't think Class 1A, they want to seriously hurt him, of course. They care about him. They just want this guy to stop and take a breather and realize that he shouldn't shelter this burden on his own. It doesn't matter how great One For All is, how strong it is, how much pressure Deku has on his shoulders. Class 1A wants to be there to back him up and help him through this. Because Deku can't defeat Shigaraki in the League of Villains on his own. He needs help. And Deku needs to realize that. But right now, he's so blinded by the fact that, he needs to be like, "Oh my," he has to continue moving forward. No matter how tired he is, he has to keep going forward because that's the only way that true peace can be found. And that eventually, at the end of all this craziness, there could be a peaceful hero society where he could smile with the rest of his classmates. It's not like Deku's intentions aren't good, but the way he's going about them are clearly too reckless, and he's putting himself in more harm than good. Because if Bakugo wasn't there, if Class 1A wasn't there to deal with Dictator, Deku probably would have got captured. And he doesn't realize that. All For One knows that Deku is being reckless, and he's using that to his advantage, and Deku has not realized that yet. So it's up to Class 1A to make Deku realize and reassess the situation. He can't do everything on his own. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how much pressure is on your shoulders. That's why you have people in your life there to help you through the toughest situations. That's the message that this chapter is giving us, and I absolutely love it. The fact that this is coming from Bakugo and not Deku, because remember, we always call Bakugo the reckless one. But the fact that this is coming from Bakugo, right? And Deku is the one that's being reckless. You would never expect that, especially at the beginning of the show. You would expect, the roles to be reversed. That's why I love this so much. So I cannot wait for next chapter. I cannot wait to see what happens. Are we truly gonna get a battle? Would Deku actually attack his friends? Would Deku actually use the powers one for all and the other quirks to attack his friends to get away? I don't think Deku is gonna get away, but it's gonna be interesting to see. So I love the cliffhanger they leave. Basically, will Class 1A have to go up against Deku in battle, right? That would be very interesting, but I love where they're going with the story. Fantastic chapter. So glad to see the rest of Class 1A finally back in the picture. Great stuff here. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Did you guys enjoy the chapter? If you guys did, leave a like on the video. Let me know your predictions for My Hero Academia 320. I'll be right back here next week covering the chapter as we usually do. Thank you guys for the love and support. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy. Y'all follow me on social media. The links are in the description down below. And click the bell right next to my name, Fistfunk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. I'm going to get out of here. You guys stay safe and healthy, y'all. Peace.